Hey, what is up, soccer fans? Welcome to this episode of the Saudi Soccer Show. It's been an incredible week throughout the Saudi Pro League. I'm one of your co-hosts, Brian Lofrumento, as always, joined by the voice of soccer in America, Nick Webster. Nick, so much to dig into this week. Where's your eyes? How are you feeling? 7-goal thriller. I don't even know where to start today.
Well, that wasn't the only 7-goal thriller of the weekend. The goals have just been pouring in the Saudi Pro League this weekend. And the Big Five are making their move, but there's still an interloper. They're still hanging around, so there's so much to get to.
Yeah, so listeners, I'm just going to tease for you at the top because we are going to be moving quick and fast in this episode. We're going to be talking about the big 7-goal classic between Al Ahli and Al Nassr. We'll be talking about Nick was throwing some shade last week on one former Liverpool star who showed up. Al Taawoun is the real deal. Maybe we'll find out in this week's episode. Al Hilal continue to stumble. There's a little bit of trouble brewing over there, Nick, that we've got to talk about. A former Manchester United starlet, I don't know how to call him, or maybe two, are potentially heading to Saudi Arabia. And my favorite topic, the refs are not so great. Nick, let's start with the 7-goal thriller. Al Nassr, Al Ahli, holy cow. A lot of fans must have seen the highlights. What did you make of the Al Nassr Classic?
Statement game by Al Nassr. 23,000 fans. It felt like there was 63,000 fans. I mean, the amount of smoke bombs, flares, atmosphere that was going on was just mind-blowing. And this is what I think when the Public Investment Fund, they had their dream of what the Saudi Pro League could be like, what the messaging is to the world. This is the game, the kind of game that does it. We had the Classico last weekend that was a 4-3, another 4-3. Steven Gerrard was in a 4-3 this weekend. We'll get to that one. But yeah, Al Nassr, Rocket Ronnie, your boy. I mean, the classic goal celebration within the smoke. He scores 2 for his 8th and 9th goal of the season. But this was really interesting for me. Luis Castro reverted from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 for Al Ahli, and it did not do the trick, okay? Talisca was on fire in this game. He scored 2 goals plus an assist, and it was just the quality of the game. Al Nassr went up 2-0. Frankie Kessie, one of your boys, he came back with his 3rd goal of the season for Al Ahli. Then Ronaldo took over. It was 3-1. It was 4-1. Mahrez pulled one back. His 3rd goal of the season and also another assist, 4-2. And then Barakan, his 5th goal of the season, made it 4-3. This is all before the 63rd minute of the game. I mean, completely bonkers stuff. But the quality of goals was really something special. And I have to say, Talisca scored an absolute worldie, top of the box, left foot, Ronaldo with a classic header and then a classic finish. I mean, this game simply had it all. But I think for Al Ahli, some alarm bells ringing because, you just can't be conceding that many goals. They won the Classico 4-3 2 weeks ago, but they've now conceded 7 goals in 2 big games against their fiercest opponents, and I think to me it makes it very problematic for this club. If they have designs on winning the title, they've got to clean it up at the back.
Yeah, and taking a quick look at the league table, you talk about Al Ahli's goals conceded, and we can see it in the goal difference column. When we look at kind of the big clubs that we've been talking about so much, Al Ettifaq plus 13 goal difference, Al Hilal plus 14, Al Nassr plus 13, Al Ahli plus 3. That is not a good sign, Nick. I love that you pointed that out, but I do want to bring it back to the greatest of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously at the double over the weekend.
You always do.
It's true, isn't it? Someone's got to do it. But Nick, it's something you and I were texting about during this weekend's action as I was asking you. One, he might be the leading goal scorer in the world. It's really hard to verify across so many different leagues around the world. He might be up there. Let's put it that way. It's really him and Erling Haaland that continue to be a cut above the rest. But my question to you is, where does he rank currently at this age, late 30s, as far as just pure goal scorers? This man puts the ball in the back of the net, Nick. Where's he rank?
Oh, Brian, you wouldn't ask me about Ronaldo the one day I'm not wearing my Ronaldo shirt. For my money, Cristiano Ronaldo is the best 38-year-old player in the world, hands down, no doubt about it.
Nick, I'm not letting you get away with that. How many 38-year-old players are in the running? Johnny Evans is trying to compete there, but he's not quite there.
No, he certainly isn't. I mean, look, I think what we're seeing is Ronaldo he's become a master craftsman. He's like Picasso. He's a Van Gogh. He's able to paint his own pictures, and he actually took quite a bit of abuse in this game, physical abuse. He was getting kicked about quite a bit, but he keeps himself in such great shape physically and mentally. He was able to handle that, and then he went and hurt Al Ahli the best way he knows how, with goals.
Yeah, it's true. And he just keeps banging them in. Leading the Golden Boot race still at this age is incredible. And pulling the league table back up right now, we see Al Nassr, I'm going to remind everybody because I had to do the graphic and very generously put them at the bottom of the table, even when they weren't in the top half of the table. They are marching right up. They're into 5th place, just 3 points off the top spot. And that healthy goal difference means if they can have a couple of fixtures go their way, then they will be top. So they're going to feel really good about that goal difference. Nick, it's something you and I haven't talked about just yet as far as where the season's at, but here we are 7 matches in. Goal difference is going to play a part at some point this season.
Oh, there's no two ways about it. So, we had another 7-goal thriller this weekend. Al Ettifaq, Steven Gerrard against Al Ahli. And this was a game where I've got to kind of eat some humble pie. So I'm going to stick my hand up in the air. Last week, and in fact the week before that, I was bemoaning the fact that Gigi Wijnaldum has really not done the business since arriving in the Saudi Pro League. Not sure why, because he was so successful at Newcastle, unbelievable at Liverpool, fantastic at PSG, and I'm just thinking to myself, maybe he's lost a little bit of hunger. My bad. Al Ettifaq and Wijnaldum with 2 great goals this weekend. But this game, I mean, we spoke about Al Nassr and Al Ahli. Well, this game was just a ding-donger, back and forth. Al Ettifaq went up. They went behind 2-1. Then they were losing 3-2. They get an equalizer 3-3. Dembele in the 93rd minute, his 6th goal of the season, wins it for them. Henderson getting his 4th assist of the season. But you got to feel for Al Ahli as well. So Bernard Mensah, he's a Guyanese international. He scores a hat-trick. And I got to say, 2 of his goals were absolutely world-class. And, anytime you score a hat-trick and you finish on the losing side, it's gotta sting. But I mean, a great result for Steven Gerrard and Al Ettifaq, and I think they've overcome that little bit of a wobble. Rounds 3 and 4, they weren't exactly doing the business, but back-to-back wins have seen them move up to 4th place in the table. Yeah, their goal difference isn't as good as Al Hilal and Al Ittihad, but still, they're in there. They're kicking. They're showing their weight. And I really feel like this is the turnaround for Ettifaq now that Wijnaldum has found his goal scoring boost, because I think he's such a cerebral player who has this ability to just float on the edges of the game, but while controlling the game. And also, I love his ability to arrive late in the box, and that's what he did this weekend for his 2 goals.
Yeah, and I want to remind listeners, especially listeners, I love how many people are tuning into the Saudi Soccer Show because this is their first season as a fan of the Saudi Pro League. And I want to remind everyone, Al Ettifaq is not one of the 4 PIF-owned clubs. So this is a club that's been doing it the right way, making really difficult but effective signings. Damari Gray, once again, put in a really good game. We haven't even seen the best of Quaison just yet. He got some early goals this season, but he's been a bit quiet. And when we look at the table, I think it's fascinating. fascinating. Al Ittihad and Al Hilal, the two PIF clubs, two of the four PIF-owned clubs at the top of the table. But then we go straight into Al Taawoun, which we're going to talk about in a second, as well as Al Ettifaq, which we're just talking about. And we're going to get to them again because they're doing shrewd business, Nick, and it doesn't look like their business is over. So yeah, Steven Gerrard working wonders there. He looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. For a Scouser on Saudi National Day, he was in his Saudi garb, and Nick, he looked at home. He looked like he's enjoying life, and the table shows exactly why.
Well, I think, look, there's always an adjustment period, and especially for, I hate to say it, for English, UK players. It doesn't matter if they're going to Europe, and even more so going to the Middle East, which is really unknown territory. So I think it was understandable that Gerrard has taken a few months to find his feet. But like you say, he's beginning to get comfortable with his surroundings. I'm sure now that his wife has settled, the kids are at school, and that takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, Nick, I do want to jump into, I think this is one of the stories of the season. Al Taawoun could be the real deal when we look at where they're at in the table. And this isn't 2 weeks in. We are 7 matches in. Percentage-wise of the season, that's no small feat. Talk to us about Al Taawoun. What is making them tick?
Well, a nice 2-1 win against Al Riyadh, Pedro Santos and Walid Al Ahmed with perhaps the goal of the season so far. I mean, just an absolute screamer. I think Pericles Chamusca, he's their Brazilian coach. And, these coaches, some of these coaches are unknown. You have your Gerrards and your Slaven Bilic's, but, Chamusca has spent the last 15 years in the Middle East. So he knows the country, the region, the environment inside out. And when you think that Al Taawoun, do you know how much money they've spent on their squad with new arrivals this season?
Lay it on us.
Less than 15 million. Less than 15 million euros. And they are punching it up with the big boys. And I think so much of it is down to Chamusca and his knowledge of Middle Eastern football.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so many of these clubs, when we look at their starting 11s, you see star-studded 11s. And here, looking at Al Taawoun's starting 11, yeah, you talked about João Pedro, obviously the Brazilian, 30 years old. He was on the score sheet this week. But looking around, it really is a bunch of journeymen. I mean, you see Musa Barrow, the Gambian international behind him. And it's an eclectic squad that's been put together. And it is clicking. And it makes sense what you said is that this is a different league. It's what listeners already know from tuning into our show every week. It's what people who get to watch highlights or watch the full game see. The Saudi Pro League is a different beast. And if you can master that beast, it says a lot about your fortunes when it comes to league play. We've seen it, even to extrapolate that out to the AFC Champions League. That's its own separate beast. Al Hilal, for example, found some struggles there, which leads us right into, Nick, we've got to talk about Al Hilal because it has not been all rainbows and butterflies. And who's at the heart of the unhappiness? One and only Neymar.
Well, listen, when you're tying to Denmark 1-1, you got some serious problems. I mean, this was a team, Denmark, they were in the bottom half of the table. They only had 3 points prior to this game. Malcolm opened the scoring, the Brazilian, for his 6th goal of the season in the opening 10 minutes. And then, it was just one-way traffic. But Al Hilal couldn't finish. And this is a team containing Mitrovic, Neymar, Al Desari, who was back in the starting 11. So I think Jorge Jesus, he's got some, he's going to be getting more grey hairs than he's already got because the highlights that I watched, yes, Al Hilal probably deserved to win the game on chances. But we know that unless you're putting these chances away, you're always going to be open to something strange happening. And Nicolai Stancio in the 68th minute finds the equalizer. An absolute shocker from Bono. Oh my word. I mean, one of the worst goalkeeping mistakes I've seen this year. And it's 2 massive drop points. And when we look at the league table, and you and I have discussed this for the last 3-4 weeks, if you're dropping points to the teams at the bottom of the table, that means you've got to take some points off Al Ittihad. You've got to take some points off Al Taawoun, off, Ettifaq, off Al Nassr to make up for the fact that you've dropped points to Denmark. I mean, it really is a stunning state of affairs.
Yeah, I think, Nick, I'm very qualified to make this statement that I'm about to make since I am a Manchester United supporter. But the problem that's going on at Al Hilal right now is that every point dropped leads to a hogging of the headlines. Every headline this week is all about Al Hilal. There's a lot going right, but there's even more going wrong when they're dropping points. And hogging the headlines this week has been the rumors, of course, that Neymar wants to see the manager sacked. Already 7 matches in, and you talk about their star-studded lineup. Looking at the player ratings, the official player ratings from this past weekend, Mitrovic a 6.0, Neymar a 6.1. Obviously those two stars not clicking just yet. Malcolm with an 8.2 was the man of the match. Al Dasari, who you always have a lot of time to praise for, a 7.8. Those guys are showing up, but it's really this week it's the stars, and it's the unruliness of Neymar. It seems to follow him throughout his career. Nick, is he a bigger problem than he's worth?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to judge, because you can look at the table and go, Nick, Brian, what are you guys talking about? They're in second place. They're a point behind the leaders, but it's the fact that they've dropped these points. That's the concerning part for me. You cannot drop points against the lower teams in this league because it's just so hard to make it up. And look, Neymar, he's now had his second appearance or his 2.5 appearances. He played the whole game this time. He's not scored. He's got his 1 assist. Look, I think we could say that he's taking time to bed in. He's come from PSG. But if we want to look on the other side of the coin, a certain Mr. Messi, he arrived in MLS and took over the league immediately. So I think either Neymar is going through the motions, he's not fit, but he's certainly got to get his butt in gear because they're paying him a lot of money, and I'm sure the Public Investment Fund is going to want to see a return on that money.
Yeah, and you can call it what you want. You can call it, and he needs time to bed in, but to me, Neymar is one of the brilliant players on planet Earth. He is a player that every fan worldwide loves to watch. And for me, I just wonder about these brilliant maestros. And part of me thinks back to the days of Eric Cantona, where more so than betting in, what you need is happy maestros. You need maestros that feel the love. And so much of me wonders if Neymar can start capturing that, if he can start feeling that happiness. We've seen it. Cristiano Ronaldo loves life in Saudi Arabia. We saw him in the commercial promoting the Saudi National Day. He's at home there. Steven Gerrard, we already talked about, he's betting in. I think the quicker that Neymar can get there, I think having the compatriot Malcolm in the squad and doing pretty well there, I think that's going to help. But I want to transition back because we are painting a very good picture of Al Ettifaq, and we talked about a few weeks about the transfer window being closed, Nick, but there continues to be rumors with one former Manchester United starlet, FA Cup winner who scored the winning goal in the FA Cup final, Jesse Lingard, potentially linking up with his fellow Englishmen, Steven Gerrard and Jordan Henderson. Nick, good move, bad move, likely move, not likely? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, For me, I'm disappointed with how Lingard's career has panned out. I mean, this was a kid 5 years ago who was a nailed-on starter for the England team in the 2018 World Cup. Obviously, a great player for Manchester United, but sort of lost his way. Went to West Ham, did well, but not well enough to be offered, a full-time ride. Went to Forest, didn't really do anything there. Still so young. What is he, 27, 28? I mean, he's not even technically in his prime. So perhaps this could be potentially a good move because sometimes I think, players need to get away from the pressure cooker that is the English Premier League, where the press is, hounding you, where supporters are following your every single move. And if you're going through that little down spiral, I think it's very hard to, crawl out from underneath that rock. So I think if Lingard gets the opportunity to go to Al Ettifaq, he should take it with open arms because I think Steven Gerrard is the kind of manager that will get the best out of him.
Yeah, I'm certainly not Jesse Lingard's biggest fan. He is a player that had so much unrealized potential, and I'm going to call out the thing that I like the least about Jesse Lingard, and that is through his entire career, he got so much patience from the English media, from the English fans. Why? Because people like to pretend that he's younger than he is. Nick, you are guilty of this. As an Englishman, you just called him out for being 27. Jesse Lingard is 30 years old. Even though he's 30, though, the one thing he does bring to the table is pace. He is electric. He's direct. And I do think that that sort of playing style is going to benefit Al Ettifaq if that move works out. Nick, I'm going to throw a curveball at you because potentially another former teammate of Jesse Lingard's is also heading to the Saudi Pro League, and that is one David De Gea. You just talked about some goalkeeping mistakes we saw over the weekend. De Gea to the Saudi Pro League?
Well, I tell you what, Bono cost a lot of money, and the howler he made for the Denmark equaliser really that should half his transfer fee. I think De Gea would do amazing in the Saudi Pro League. I was really surprised that no club picked him up in the transfer window. I mean, after all, this is a guy that I think had the second most clean sheets in the Premiership last year, despite United's up and down form. I think that. De Gea, I think he was named Player of the Season at United 4 times in the last 5 or 6 years. So, look, he's a great goalkeeper, and to be honest with you, I'm surprised that Ten Hag let him go. But I guess he likes Onana, and if De Gea has the opportunity, I think despite the Man United collection, Steven Gerrard would be like, "Hey, welcome."
Nick, come on. That was your chance to give us your best Scouse accent.
And see, that's the dog in the background giving the Scouse accent. I'm sure you can hear.
I love it. Well, a lot to talk about. But Nick, one of the things that I like about the way that you watch matches and you pay attention to leagues is you notice the trends. And this week, we've got to talk about a trend that you unearthed about refereeing, my least favorite component of the beautiful game. Nick, what are you looking at as far as refereeing goes? We haven't seen a masterclass around the world, but the Saudi Pro League is no different from the others. We're seeing some topsy-turviness there.
Well, I mean, just consistency. And I think, as players and coaches and fans, all you want is consistency. Be consistently bad, be consistently good, but don't be all over the place. And last weekend, we didn't mention it in the show because I didn't think it was a key thing, but there were 7 red cards in just 10 games. No, excuse me, it wasn't even 10 games. It was 8 games, 7 red cards. This week, 0. So either the referees are being told to clamp down on any physical play, especially against the star players, and yet this week they've let it all go. And I mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo in the Al Nassr game, and he was getting kicked around all over the place. Last week that would have been red card, and Al Ahli would have been down to 9 players. This week, not so much. So I think, as we spoke about, those teething pains, okay, as the league is getting more notoriety, it's certainly getting a lot more eyeballs on it. So not only are the players under pressure and under scrutiny, but so are the referees. And I think that there's been a couple of actually English referees who have gone over there, reffed a couple of games, and I think that what the Saudi Pro League needs is a referee overseer who has a ton of European experience, who can find that consistency that all referees need, because they have the ability, and a good referee, as you know, you don't even see them during the game.
Yeah.
This week, I think we kind of need to see them a little bit more, but they decided to keep the cards in the pocket and were like, hey, go for it.
Put it this way, Nick, the refereeing was so atrocious. You're right. Ronaldo was kicked so much that it led to him having his own Mario Balotelli moment as lip readers were looking at Ronaldo on the pitch, and he couldn't help but say, why always me? So definitely a lot to look for in the coming week of fixtures. Nick, a lot of action this past week. Champions League will be resuming again next week, but even before we get there are a lot of domestic fixtures that I've got my eyes on. Al Hilal Al back at home. Can they rebound against Al Shabab? Al Nassr go on the road to Al Ta'i, which is a lower half of the table club. But the big one this week is going to be, if fans are wondering where should their eyes be, where should their attention be, for this Saturday, for all of us on the East Coast here in the United States, Saturday at 2 p.m. is the big match of the weekend. It's Al Ahli versus Al Ettifaq. That's going to be a barnstormer. Nick, I want you to take the closing remarks today. Tell us what you've got your eyes on and what to look forward to.
Well, two things that are really popping out to me, and it's two teams. It's Al Taawoun and Al Wada, who had a great 4-0 victory against Abba. They've moved from 13th place to 7th in the space of 2 weeks. So they're knocking in the goals. You'll be very pleased to know Igalo scored his 4th of the season, ex-Man United player. And the crazy thing is this, though, Brian. At the Al Wada game, there was only 700 fans. So what I'm looking for this weekend, I'm looking for the hometown support. I'm looking for the soccer fans of the Saudi Pro League to get out there in force, support your teams, and create the kind of atmosphere we saw at Al Nassr in every single stadium in the country. I challenge you, Saudi soccer fans, get out there and support your team right now.
Yes, you heard it from Nick Webster himself. So much to be excited about, as well as 2 Champions League clubs facing off in league action this week. Al Fayha hosts defending champions Al Ittihad. A lot to play for there. So action all over the place, whether you're pitch side and you get to take Nick's challenge and go to your local matches this weekend, or your fans all around the world, make sure you pound that subscribe button and keep tuning in to the Saudi Soccer Show. We will see you, as always, every single week covering all the action. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you next week.